Really simple. Aw, yeah, that's a good way to start a presentation, right? This is me. Not when I was at LBW. I looked probably pretty similar though. This was me in my very young age in Detroit, Michigan, playing hockey, right? As you alluded to, my path brought me to LBW. Started at LBW in 2005. Was in this exact classroom, in fact, taking courses from Lawrence Gelbert and others, that were teaching us at the time. Then I moved to Wharton, studied here from 2006 to 2010. Studied the concentration of organizational effectiveness. It's essentially thinking about how companies can maximize their performance from a people perspective. Thinking about all problems through the lens of people within companies. Not necessarily supply chain, not necessarily their marketing, nor their finances, all of which, if not are more important, are equally important, okay? But through the lens of people, all right? And so today this talk is going to synthesize a couple of things that I've observed both at Deloitte and at Bloomberg, and also kind of what I learned within these walls. So let's start with a little statistic here, okay? 70% of the US population is either disengaged or actively disengaged in their jobs. Okay? 70%, in other words, 7 out of 10 people are either disengaged or actively disengaged in their jobs. Okay? Just so you guys are fully aware of what these terms mean, when we say disengaged, that means you are doing the bare minimum. Okay? You are just meeting expectations. You're not going above and beyond. If you are actively disengaged, you are somebody who is purposefully combating or attempting to kind of stifle what your manager is wanting to do or what your company is attempting to do. So you're really trying to be a roadblock against the progress of your company, your team, your group, your manager. Okay? 7 out of 10 people in the US labor force fall into this bucket of either disengaged or actively disengaged. Do any of you have any hypotheses about why this may be? Why would 7 out of 10 people feel this way? Yeah?
Probably monotonous.
People get bored. Okay, good.
People don't know about the company's goals and what how their contribution comes to their whole company.
Terrific. Great. Sure.
There aren't proper incentives put in place to stimulate sort of their experience.
Great. Yeah.
People want to do what makes money instead of what they want to do.
All right.
Employing different ideas and behavior, so they disagree with the managers.
Okay, so there's a little bit of butting heads. Yeah.
Lack of non-monetary incentives to work. They don't feel they're part of the organization.
Got it. Some of the same things we're talking about over here. Anybody on the left side? Yeah.
They just don't like their job.
They just don't like their job. Okay. All these things. Okay. All these things are in play. 70% of the workforce, though, folks, in the United States is either disengaged or actively disengaged. This is an unbelievable statistic. Okay. Anybody ever hear the consulting firm McKinsey by chance? Yeah. So a competitor for Deloitte. You guys visit Deloitte. McKinsey and Deloitte go head to head a lot of times for projects. Okay. So McKinsey did a study in 2012 that said that companies whose people are characterized as the most motivated. So if a company considers its people to be highly motivated, 60% of the time, those same companies with people who are highly motivated are in the top quartile for business performance. Okay? So in other words, if you don't have a highly motivated or engaged workforce, remember 70% of the US workforce is not, you're not achieving peak performance. Okay? So there's a real business case to be made for making sure that your people are engaged, happy, productive, contributing in ways that are meaningful to them, because again, it affects your business performance. It brings you to the top 25% of all firms in the world. Okay? I want to show you one more statistic before we get into this. 38% of organizations feel that they have effective leaders running their firm. 38% of leaders, of firms would say that their leaders are effectively running their firm. Okay, so about a third. Any thoughts about this? Why would people feel perhaps that leaders are not doing an effective job? Yeah.
A lot of times you feel that you would do a better job over here. You feel you should be in the leadership.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of times you have ideas of ways to change and other avenues to express those things.
Okay, so no communication. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, in the opposite direction, a lot of times you don't feel that the orders of the upper level management are really reach you.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
There's just a lot of office politics that we don't perceive or
Go for it, Jim.
well, also just to build on what they were saying, there's a disconnection between management and workforce.
Absolutely. Okay, someone who hasn't participated yet? Any other folks? Okay, you guys are all right with what you were saying. 38%, though. Just want that stat to sink in a little bit, okay? Roughly a third of companies feel that they are effectively led. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, all right? So what I want to do today is illuminate to you kind of a history of leadership, of late, okay? Not way back when to the Industrial Revolution. We're going to stay pretty current, okay? But I want to introduce you to a couple people who are kind of leadership 1.0, leadership 2.0, and then we're going to really focus on leadership 3.0 for a second. That's why the talk was entitled Leadership 3.0. These are the kinds of skills that I want you guys to observe in leaders that are already out there today, and think about how you as well could start leading in this way. All right? So let's start with this guy. Anybody know who this is? Absolutely right. So we're two people say Jack Welch. Anybody know what his title was and for whom he worked? General Electric. And his title? Exactly. So Jack Welch was a leader at GE for many years. Okay? Jack Welch is our case study of leadership 1.0. All right? A leadership style that could be described as autocratic. Okay? Top down, command and control. Just as an example of what kind of Jack became known for, over 5 years, okay, while he was leading GE, there were 112,000 people that were fired by GE. Okay?
We call him the hatchet.
The hatchet man, okay? So that, just, again, this leadership 1.0, command and control model, a hatchet of sorts. Not just in, laying people off, but in dictating the rules of the game, if you will. Okay? That's a leadership 1.0 model. Another one, just in case you don't know Jack Welch, you haven't heard about GE, many of you have probably heard of Disney. Okay? For 21 years, a gentleman by the name of Michael Eisner led Disney. Okay? He was the CEO of Disney. And Michael Eisner was frequently touted as a micromanager because he would really nitpick at some of the facts like the font size on bottles of shampoo that would be in people's hotel rooms when they stayed at a Disney resort. Okay? A CEO pushing people to act only in alignment with his vision for font size on a bottle of shampoo in one of his resorts. Okay? That's one example. Another is that he only wanted specific types and brightness wattages of light bulbs to be in those hotel rooms. So when people sat down in their bed to read a book before they went to sleep, only a specific wattage of light bulbs. Okay? This is a CEO of Disney. Okay? They have so many people in this entire organization who could be thinking about this. But folks like Jack and folks like Michael Eisner really wanted it their way. Okay? It was an autocratic, top-down, command and control leadership style. All right, so that's the first one, leadership 1.0. Let's talk about this person. Anybody know who this is? No? Anybody drink Starbucks? Yeah? A couple of you drink Starbucks? Does that kind of help anybody? This is the leader of Starbucks. His name is Howard Schultz. Okay? Howard Schultz is the CEO of Starbucks. And the second leadership style we're going to talk about today, leadership 2.0, if you will, is an empowering leadership style. Empowerment. You've probably heard that word before. Empower your people. Empowering leadership style. Okay? So Howard Schultz, just to make it real for everybody, what does empowerment look like in true? Howard Schultz would say, hey, we want to expand globally. I'm Starbucks. I want to have coffee in Russia. I want to have coffee in Germany. I want it everywhere. Okay? But I, Howard, don't necessarily know how people in Germany or in Russia prefer to drink their coffee, what things they like with their coffee, and what times they frequently do drink coffee. It's very different in China than it is in Pakistan. And it's different in New Zealand, right? Just in this one row. It's like the whole geography. It's awesome. It's well played. All right? So you've got all these things that Howard wants to accomplish in other parts of the world, this whole rollout of this strategy, but he admits, I don't know everything. Okay? I'm going to empower somebody else to make a frontline decision about pairing specific items with the coffee, about perhaps sending out a specific marketing message from that store, letting go of control of it, empowering a frontline person. That's leadership 2.0. Another example, anybody ever hear of a woman by the name of Meg Whitman? Yeah? Nodding your head. Who's Meg Whitman?
She was CEO of Packard.
Exactly. So she is CEO of HP. Exactly. And she used to be CEO of eBay. Exactly right. So you got all the knowledge, man. I swear I didn't show the slides. All right? So Meg Whitman, back in the day when she was working at eBay, Meg Whitman, in an empowering leadership style, said, hey, I can't write the code. I can't be the developer for this website when we're doing massive growth. But what I can do as CEO is bring in a ton of cots, a ton of toiletries, a ton of sleeping bags, and make it really comfortable for every single one of those developers to stay late. I can empower my people to do the best work that they need to. I can make the conditions, I can put the conditions in place to let them flourish and succeed. That's leadership 2.0, okay? An empowering leadership style. All right? You guys should know this guy, okay? Anybody know this name? Yep, you got Zappos, see it on the back of the phone. Good. Tony Hsieh, exactly right. From California, all right? Actually, at one point California, now Las Vegas. So, Tony Hsieh at Zappos is our Leadership 3.0 model, okay? The Leadership 3.0 style that we're going to talk further about today, that Tony is a perfect case study for, is one that is connected, is one that is nurturing, is one that is more focused on the people within his or her organization, okay? More internally focused. Not the hatchet Jack Welch that we alluded to earlier, not the micromanager Michael Eisner that we alluded to, not the empowering person necessarily. We want to talk today about Leadership 3.0, being focused on a nurturing leader, a connected leader who cares about people. Okay? So Tony Hsieh, let me just give you a couple of examples. Tony Hsieh, you may be blown away by, and Zappos more broadly. When you start at Zappos, let's say you're starting a new job there, okay? Your first 4 weeks with Zappos, you go through an intense training program for those 4 weeks, an entire month. The company's paying you during those 4 weeks. You're learning a ton, you're getting acclimated to the systems. Totally fine, company dollar. At the end of those 4 weeks, Tony at one point, and now probably an HR manager, pulls you into a room and says, hey Nancy, do you want to work here? Yes or no? It's that simple. Do you like it here? You want to stay here? And if you say, I don't really know, they're like, no problem. Here's a check for $4,000 to not come back ever again. Alternatively, you can stay here and continue working here, and we won't give you that $4,000 check. Okay? So pretty bold move. Okay? Literally saying to someone, hey, Roberto, come into a room, 2 choices, stay with the company, and we don't give you any additional money, continue to earn a salary, or never come back here and we'll give you $4,000. We're paying you to leave. It's crazy. Who would do that? Okay? Well, what he does, through this specific example, Tony Hsieh and other leaders we're going to talk about, is helps you to own the choice. You own the choice. You say, as we just talked about a couple of minutes ago, whether your values are in alignment with this place, with Zappos, whether you like the people that you're going to be working with, whether you find the work to be stimulating and rewarding. You've got 4 weeks now under your belt. Pick or choose. You want to stay or not? All right? So that's Tony Hsieh, just as an example. Another one, anybody ever shop at Whole Foods? Heard of Whole Foods before? Yeah, it's good eats, right? It's good. It's beautiful in there. All the colors, it's a terrific shopping experience. Okay? There's a co-CEO for Whole Foods by the name of John Mack, or John Mackey, I can't remember off the top of my head. And this individual pulls together an annual fund of at least $100,000 that he makes available to all people within the company who are experiencing some kind of a personal tragedy. Okay? $100,000 that he himself, not the board of directors, not his wife, not anybody else in his world, but him, makes available and says, here's the pot of gold. If any of you have some traumatic event, maybe your house was ruined during Hurricane Sandy, maybe any other event, some kind of a death in the family, whatever it was, come to me, I have this pot of money, and I will give it to you. Okay? It is for you all to take from. Okay? This is that nurturing, connected, and people-focused leader that we're talking about today, that we're going to further explore over the next couple of slides. All right? This is Leadership 3.0. So think of Tony Hsieh. Think of John Mack from, Whole Foods. Those are our first little case studies of Leadership 3.0. So, simple question. Tony and John are not alone. There are other people like you that could be a Leadership 3.0 leader. A person who exemplifies these kinds of traits. A person who enables organizations to see insight and allow those insights to turn into impact. Okay, somebody who empowers other people like Howard Schultz, in much the same way. All right, this is what we're talking about today, Leadership 3.0. I want to take you through a couple more people, a couple more traits, and then we're going to get into our activity. All right? Anybody know who this is? This may be a little bit tough for somebody. Anybody wear glasses? Yeah, nice, me too. You just don't see him right now. Anybody hear of a company called Warby Parker? Warby Parker? Yeah, what's Warby Parker?
They make like cool prescription glasses. This guy spoke at my school that I don't know.
Okay, that's no problem, no problem. All right, so his name is Neil Blumenthal. He graduated from Wharton, in fact, in 1996 from the MBA program. So he's got Wharton in his blood, he's a Quaker, okay? So Neil Blumenthal, perfect case study for Leadership 3.0. The trait that I want to talk to you about when we're thinking about Neil, who is, as you said, the co-founder and co-CEO of Warby Parker. And Warby Parker, by the way, for those of you that don't know the full story, they sell prescription eyeglasses that are also pretty trendy for $95 a pair. Okay? So not $350, not $600, prescription designer frames with the eye exam for $95. Unbelievable. Totally flipping the model upside down. If you are somebody who owns a pair of Ray-Bans or Ray-Ban sunglasses, those are two brands that are housed within another kind of holding company that has the monopoly on glasses. Neil's kind of flipping it upside down. And oh, by the way, if you own a pair of Tom's shoes, imagine the Tom's model being applied to eyeglasses, where you buy one and they give one to a child in need. Okay, same kind of thing happens for Warby Parker. So what does this gentleman, Neil Blumenthal, exemplify? What's the trait, the Leadership 3.0 trait? The word that you want to think about is empathy. Okay? Neil Blumenthal is an empathetic leader. Let me give you a broader illustration of what this is all about. What does it mean to be empathetic? How would you guys describe empathy? What does that look like? Yeah.
Caring about other people's needs.
Great. Yep.
Being able to understand other people's problems.
Awesome. Any other people care to define empathy? Yeah.
You know what the underlings feel, how they feel, and how they
The
can.
underlings. Wow. All right. I guess I'm an underling. I don't know. When does one step out of underling status? I'm going to throw a party for that day. Awesome. All right, so you guys are all spot on, okay? We all know what empathy is about. You know when you see it, okay? You know when you've experienced it or given somebody some help at a time of need, okay? Here's what empathy looks like in the professional setting. Could you imagine a startup, by the way? Okay, Warby Parker is only a couple years old, okay? Only has one store in Soho in Manhattan, okay? A startup where the co-CEOs, Neil Blumenthal and another gentleman by the name of Dave Gilboa, okay, get together with all of the newly promoted managers every so many months, okay? They bring them into a multi-day training that helps them better understand how they can coach their people to perform not only at their peak at work and do what fulfills them at work, but also to have a life outside and achieve the things they want to outside. Could you imagine the co-CEOs of a startup committing that kind of time to training newly promoted managers to help those managers invest in their own underlings, as you said, okay? Their own direct reports. Okay? It's unheard of. Every startup today, phrases like grind it out or just making it happen. Yeah, just work all weekend, stay up all night, drink 5 Red Bulls, just that kind of culture, it pervades so many startups. But at Warby Parker, the co-CEOs get all the leaders, the newly promoted leaders together to train them on how to help their people. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And oh, by the way, those same co-CEOs sponsor to have executive coaches for all of those managers so that after the training happens, they have continued development. And they are continuing to have these themes reinforced throughout their day and week and month as they're working with their people. It's unheard of. Okay? Totally changing the model. Totally different. That's empathy. Okay? That's one of the Leadership 3.0 traits we're talking about. Okay? I want to take you to a new person. Anybody know who this is? If any of you are wanting to study fashion or care about fashion, this person plays in the fashion world. No? All right. Her name is Eileen Fisher. Anybody hear of the Eileen Fisher clothing brand? You probably see it. Yeah. I shop there all the time. I'm kidding. All right. You probably heard of it. Yeah. All right. There you go. How do you think I got this slide? You think I shop? All right. So Eileen Fisher. Okay. Eileen Fisher, who has a fashion house that bears her name. Okay. Eileen Fisher demonstrates inclusiveness. That is the next Leadership 3.0 trait we're going to talk about. Inclusiveness. What do you guys envision when you are in a company setting, for example? Maybe you've had an internship or you have friends that have worked at companies. What do meetings look like? What do meetings look like in companies? Yeah.
A bunch of high-level people behind closed doors.
A bunch of high-level people behind closed doors. What other things? See another hand? Yeah.
Going into a boardroom and like having one person present everyone else.
One person presenting to everybody else. So not a lot of exchange of ideas, just sort of being talked at. Okay? Any other things that you guys envision when you're thinking about a meeting? Yeah.
Several employees sitting around a table going through an agenda, kind of sleepwalking through
Sleepwalking. Right. So true. Usually there's a coffee break because people are so desperate for a new form of energy. Okay? What else? Any other traits, meetings you guys have seen? You guys are all hitting it on the head.
Well, I don't know. Where I work, they actually do get as many people in the room as possible and try to take people that are not at the highest levels and really communicate with everyone.
Awesome. You want to go back to that employer because nobody does it like they do. Very few do. Okay? Eileen Fisher definitely does it just like your friend. Okay? A couple traits to how meetings are run at Eileen Fisher's fashion house. Number one, instead of sitting at a boardroom, and the table is probably a nice big rectangle with someone, as we talked about, presenting at the front of the room, Eileen Fisher's meetings are set up in a circle. Everybody sits in a giant circle. So these kind of rolly chairs, imagine a giant circle of all those where you can see everybody. You can see whether they're texting and checked out. You can see whether they're writing notes to themselves. You can see whether they're asleep. They're in a giant circle around each other. Okay? Nobody's being talked at. That's the first thing. Second thing, this device, okay, think of it like a PowerPoint clicker for now, but it could be anything. It's called a talking stick in Eileen Fisher's meetings. Okay? So imagine you've got that group of 10 people sitting in a circle, for example, and the talking stick gets passed around in a circle. And you only speak when you have the talking stick. And everybody gets the talking stick. Everybody. Not just the people at the front, who called the meeting, or the higher up people. Everybody gets the talking stick. And as a result of knowing that you're going to have your chance to speak, you actually listen to what other people are saying, because you're not having to retain your thought. Okay, you know you're going to get a chance to speak. All right? Third trait to Eileen Fisher's meetings. Eileen Fisher, I'm going to keep coming back to you because that word underlings was so perfect. You would never guess, okay, that a fashion house would actually solicit and listen to and act on ideas from its newest employees, from its youngest employees. But Eileen Fisher purposefully organizes these groups of recent hires from across the company to come up with new ideas that could be baked into their collections, that actually get implemented. Okay? As we said, that go from insight to impact. Okay? That's how Eileen Fisher is an inclusive Leadership 3.0 leader. All right? So that's the second little example I want to share with you guys. Anybody know who this person is? Anybody with a military background or interest in the military? I'll give you the first name. You guys can probably finish it. Stanley. All right, no problem. Stanley McChrystal. I'm sure some of you have heard, especially from the United States, you've probably heard of Stanley McChrystal. Stanley McChrystal ran the Joint Special Operations Command in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay, so he's been around the block for the United States. All right, he's been on the front lines of the military for a long time. So again, the trait that I wanted you guys to think about when we're looking at Stanley McChrystal, General McChrystal, it's a word called humility. Okay? You may not assume, a person in top leadership command in a military organization, the word humility would come out. But we're going to talk about this a little bit further. Okay? Stanley McChrystal aims to cultivate what he calls a shared consciousness across everybody that he oversees. A shared consciousness. So one of the things I heard from this side of the room, we were talking about not everybody understands the bigger picture. Not everybody is in a position to actually make decisions once they understand that bigger picture. Okay? Stanley McChrystal aims to do just that. So everybody gets informed of that big picture, the end goals. And once they've been informed of it and understand it and have internalized it, they are then put in a position to act on it themselves without having to ask 3 managers before they do something. Okay? You guys, when you think of military organizations, you're probably envisioning a lot of hierarchy, a lot of approvals, people on the front lines, even though they're closest to the problem, not being in a position to think about the specific solution that makes sense. You're probably envisioning people being told what to do and then just going out and running and doing it, okay? Stanley McChrystal's military operation is the exact opposite, okay? So people on the front lines, with the understanding of that shared consciousness, could act and make decisions and do things without having to solicit approvals. It's unheard of in military, okay? Again, flipping the model totally upside down. Just like we were talking about Neil Blumenthal, instead of envisioning an HR person leading a training, Neil, the co-CEO, leads the training. Stanley McChrystal, a military organization, instead of there being layers, he turns the layers upside down and says the people closest to it, they're the ones that should make the decision. Unheard of, okay? Another thing I want you to think about when we're talking about McChrystal, okay, and this notion of humility. Again, it's all in the name of admitting that you don't have all the answers. You need other people to act on your behalf. Another thing that we talk about when we think about McChrystal, there's something called powerless communication. Powerless communication. There are lots of studies out there that have shown that when you say things like, we must do this, a person is actually less likely to act in alignment with what you want. If, however, you say, what we might consider is something like X, people are much more likely to buy in and actually support you, okay? Powerless communication, admitting that your idea, even with all the facts that you've amassed, may still benefit from another person's perspective, may still benefit from their twist. Powerless communication, an element of humility, to say that you don't always have all the answers and you need people's help to bring your vision to life, okay? So this, again, Stanley McChrystal, the trait is humility. The final one, or excuse me, second to final one, that I wanted to introduce you to. This one I didn't even know until several weeks ago and I read more about her. Do you know who she is, Rob?
Not my
No, not a problem. I didn't either. Her name is Padmasree Warrior. I want the last name Warrior, that's for sure. That is for sure, Mr. Warrior. How cool would that be, all right? Padmasree Warrior is her name, okay? You're saying, so what does Padmasree do? Because I've never heard of her, all right? She has had some pretty special jobs. She was CTO, Chief Technology Officer for Motorola. You've ever heard of Motorola before? And she is currently the Chief Technology and Strategy Officer for Cisco, okay? Huge technology company. This is Padmasree, all right? All-star, with the last name Warrior. How cool, all right? This is Padmasree. The trait that Padmasree demonstrates as a Leadership 3.0 leader is balance, okay? Balance. You would say to yourself, gosh, Padmasree, she has such an important job. She's got all these people reporting into. She's probably traveling incessantly to all the Cisco offices all over the world, giving speeches, going to conferences. She's everywhere, okay? You would be surprised to know, perhaps, that Padmasree, every single day, meditates. And that every single weekend, she does at least 4 hours of non-analytical activities for herself. Things like painting, writing haiku poetry. You're saying, are you serious? Padmasree, you're so busy, you're traveling, you have a family, you do all this, and yet you're balanced in that way to commit time to yourself? In this new economy that we're in right now, where there is just straight up utter chaos all the time, okay, and big changes are happening at the speed of light, you need time for yourself to renew. You need time for yourself to actually think about how you might connect the dots, okay? So Padmasree, this notion of balance is something that is embedded within Leadership 3.0. Committing the time to yourself to actually see the connections that exist across all the things that you're a part of and how you can perhaps elevate your performance in each one of those. Okay? Final one. Anybody know who this is? I don't know if you're hearing from him this summer. This professor. He's a Wharton professor. Yeah. How do you know him? I didn't give you my slides either. That's the perfect introduction. So Adam Grant is the youngest tenured professor at Wharton, and he is also the single highest rated professor at Wharton. It's pretty amazing. I think he's 31. Okay? Adam Grant. Adam Grant is from our hometown, West Bloomfield. Okay? Adam Grant is one of, Detroit, Michigan.
I'm saying magician too.
Yeah, magician and an Olympic springboard diver. Okay, just very interesting traits about this guy. All right, so Adam Pretty special, right? And oh, by the way, he's a tenured professor at Wharton. Pretty cool, right? All right, so Adam. Let's talk about Adam for a second. Adam has a book out now that many of you may be interested in called Give and Take. Okay? And what this book, Give and Take, illustrates is that Adam is able to chunk people into one of three categories. Okay? People who are givers, people who are matchers, and people who are takers. So givers, matchers, and takers. Givers, that first bucket, are people who unconditionally give of their time, their network, their resources, their energy to any person in their world that they care about, or any cause that matters to them. That is a group called givers. Matchers are people who also give of their time, network, resources, but expect something back. Okay, the vast majority of people are matchers. They're kind of operating in a quid pro quo kind of way, saying, I gave you something, I want something back almost immediately, right? Trade. Takers are people who just straight up take from you, okay? They take your ideas and say they're their own. They steal whatever it may be from you, your talent, your home, whatever it was. You're a taker, okay? Especially prevalent in some work settings, okay? Givers, matchers, and takers. If you guys had to guess, which of those three groups would you say is the most likely to be the least successful? Givers, matchers, takers. Huh? Okay, so we're kind of all over the map, all right? It's good. The truth is, the people that are least successful in all the research that Adam has done, the least successful people are givers. Okay? I'm going to ask you a different question. Who do you think is most likely to be most successful from that group? Givers, matchers, takers. The people that are most successful are givers. Okay? I know I used the same one twice. Okay? I know. Is it A and B? Is it whatever? Okay? That's the goal. Okay? Givers are the least successful, and givers are the most successful. Okay? If you are, let's say, a medical student, and all day you don't spend reading your textbook, going to lectures, but instead help all your friends build out their resume, or meet new people, or volunteer, whatever it may be, if you're giving of your time, energy, resources, network all day, you're going to be really unsuccessful in medical school. Okay? Unless you have some God-given gift that all that knowledge is already in your brain. Okay? Similar, so that's why the givers are the least likely to succeed sometimes, because they give without necessarily thinking about it, being purposeful. At the same time, the same pool, those givers are also the most successful, because people who do it right are doing it in ways that is smart for them. They're thinking about, okay, is this somebody that I could potentially work with down the line? Is this somebody that down the line I might want to ask of something? Is this somebody that I respect and admire and want to continue to have a relationship with? They're purposeful in how they give. Yeah?
So if it's purposeful, it's the same as a natural? Yeah.
Say again?
If some people like give something purposefully, like same as natural. Because you're doing and expect somebody will do that.
So the difference is, if I'm a matcher, if let's say you and I are, I don't know, doing some kind of transaction, okay? I expect that you're going to give me something back right away. I'm like, in fact, I'm only inclined to do something at that moment if you have told me what you're going to do. Does that make sense? Whereas a giver says, this is somebody I care about, maybe down the line, maybe, but perhaps not. But I want to still be in touch with this person. Whereas a matcher says, right here, right now, I need to have greater clarity about what it is I'm going to get from you. Because if I'm not going to get anything from you, I don't really want to hang with you. All right? So, let's bring it back a little bit. Okay? Adam Grant. I'm very impressed that you knew who he was. Terrific professor, terrific book, again, Give and Take. Adam Grant demonstrates something called generosity. That's the trait that I want you guys to think about, generosity. Okay? The leaders today who are successful in this Leadership 3.0 framework we're talking about are generous with their time, with their networks, with their resources, whatever things they have at their disposal. Could you imagine a leader like Howard Schultz, like Neil Blumenthal, like any of these people, working in a company, being a CEO or a very high up executive, and inspiring their own people to be givers because they themselves are givers? Could you imagine that, right? Talk about a way to break down silos across a company. If all you're doing all the time is promoting knowledge sharing and helping of one another within a company, you won't have silos. Okay? It's a great way to build these cross-functional relationships because all you're thinking about all the time is how you can be teaming with each other from other parts of the businesses and helping one another. Okay? So the trait here again is generosity. So what I want us to do now, kind of talk at you guys for a little bit. I want to take a break from talking. I want us to do a little activity. Okay? It builds on a lot of the research that Adam has done, something called the reciprocity ring. Okay? So let's come to this exercise. We have a big box of stuff up here. All right? Maybe we'll spread it out once I stop talking up here. What I want you guys to do is get a piece of paper from this box, a white piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. Okay? And on that piece of paper, I want you to write something that you would benefit from having someone else's help with. So, for example, a friend of mine is thinking of applying to the University of Michigan, but wants to talk to someone who's gone there before. Anyone you know? Maybe that would be an example of a problem that I have. And then, oh, by the way, don't forget to put your name on it. Okay? So you're going to write that on a white piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. Another example is Aviva's, maybe. All right? I'm looking for a few nonfiction books to read after LBW. Any recommendations? Just an example. Okay? Charlie, though, I got this one from him. I'd like to take up photography as a hobby. Which camera and other gear should I buy? All right? Just an example. Real basic. Charlie's all over photography already, so he probably doesn't need that much help. Okay? But this is what I want you to think about. Something personal, something professional, something related to your family, your friends. What is something you would benefit from other people's help with? Okay? And then what I want you to do after that, you kind of put them up all over the room, this kind of white piece of paper. You're also going to take a stack, one of these little pads of yellow sticky notes. Okay? And you're going to walk around the room. Maybe we'll even click on a little Pandora and go crazy. And you'll put up how you might be able to help. Okay? So let's say, for example, I'm Charlie. Here's my problem. At the end of this little exercise, I'm going to have a bunch of these little stickies from all of you with your name on them saying, how might I be able to help? Oh, I don't do photography, but a friend of mine's really into it. I'm going to connect you to that person, right? And how you're going to offer to help this person. So then, at the end of the exercise, Charlie can go to his white piece of paper and see, oh gosh, look, I've got 14 of these little sticky notes with everybody's name on them. He could reach out to any one of you and ask for follow-up to actually be introduced to somebody. And then he can get his problem solved. This is called the reciprocity ring exercise. And certainly, in addition to offering to help people, you are going to be helped by the people in this room. All right? So end to end, I want this to take probably 20 minutes. All right? So what I'd like us to do to start, maybe some of the RTAs can come help me. We'll get the white piece of paper spread out, some pens, and then the yellow stickies as well. Just take the stickies to start, and then we'll start putting them up.
I just passed lunch out. So,
Great, hasn't been.
All right. So does everybody? Oh, you got to think about it. You guys go ahead and write on the bucket your paper. What problem, what you want to have Once you guys have your problem,